Welcome to Metaphysical Soul Speak. I'm your host, Elena Fox Starks. Hey guys, I hope that you're doing really well today. And in this very moment in which you're hearing this recording, whenever and wherever you are on this grand blue-green planet of ours, that you are able to find the time to pick up a book and read for pleasure. Now, I don't mean a Kindle or a Barnes & Noble, I forgot even what's called a Nook, I guess. Not a laptop, but an actual book where you could smell the papers, you could hear the crinkly sound. And I hope that you can get that feeling that you get when you're so absorbed into the book that time passes so quickly because you're just so into it. And that while you're doing this, you're able to visualize what the story is telling you. Now, I'm talking about, of course, fiction, not nonfiction book. I love reading nonfiction books, but I also have a couple fiction novels here in my house. I have a few I haven't read. And there's nothing better than that. There's nothing better than that feeling of getting into a good book and just thoroughly enjoying yourself, guilt-free, just lounging, just relaxing into this. And being able to visualize everything. I mean, reading a book, it opens up and expands your mind, I think, in a different way than if you're reading some article on the internet. I feel like it's different. Somehow it's engaging more parts of your body. Obviously your eyes and your brain, but also your hands and the way that you're sitting. A lot of people like to read with their feet up, and you're in a relaxed or reclining position. I used to take a book to the beach or parks, put out a blanket, lay down, and just enjoy using the light of the sun. I haven't done that in years, and I was thinking about it today because my son, he sold his phone. He's like, you know what, I'm done. I'm so done with being so filled with anxiety, wondering if my friends wrote me or called me or texted me or not. He's like, I'm done with social media. He started watching TED Talks on how bad it is. And so now he borrows my phone to watch TED Talks or comedy, or Netflix. We watched The Good Place together lately. And he says, I just feel like, watching Netflix without you and being alone watching it, it's so lonely. But when I'm with you and we watch something together, we could turn to each other and laugh, and it's a lot less lonely. And it's just like we're sharing the experience of laughing together at this idea. And we pause and we talk about the moral dilemmas and about moral philosophy. And my son's like, wow, I think I might want to study this. I'm like, well, you don't want to become as annoying as Chidi, the character in The Good Place. If you guys haven't seen it, it's a very good show. It's like got some deep spiritual themes. It's actually pretty profound as a show. Plus, it's really hilarious. and you just fall in love with the characters. It's well written, well acted, well directed. The costumes and the set design are amazing. It's like a really, really, really well thought out, very good show. It's just recently started its 4th season, so you'd have a lot to watch. It's nice, but my son said he's tired of not watching TV, or like basically he's tired of watching TV alone. So he decided for the majority of his day, he's exercising, he's going outside, he's listening to music, he's dancing, he's enjoying his life. I mean, he still has a radio. Just a basic, simple radio, not on the phone, just an actual radio that's attached to a speaker. And he's saying that he got into this Harry Potter, in the Case of the Cursed Child, I think is the name of it. It's a stage play that was not written by J.K. Rowling, but she approved of it. And someone wanted to write it because they're really into the Harry Potter series. And I found it for free, just in a hostel like 4 hours from here when we stayed for the weekend, and it was pretty interesting. We were like, this is really cool. It's really, really cool. So I took it. It's supposed to be, leave a book, take a book, but I just took the book. I didn't have anything to leave, and so I just took it. So I have a bookshelf full of stolen books that I do have every intention of eventually going back to these places and dropping them off and getting more books, but I haven't done it yet. But I know all the places where I've taken books and what books I took from these places. But anyway, yeah, I just was happy to hear it. And he said, Mom, I've really been enjoying and getting really into this book because I'm suddenly able to visualize a lot more, and I can see the images and the picture in my head and how things are taking place. And I feel like being on my phone all the time, I lost my ability to imagine and visualize, and my imagination was gone. And I feel like I'm getting a part of myself back that I had somehow lost or was ignoring. And today when he went out walking, he was like, my God, the clouds here, there's so many images and symbols and even letters and numbers in the clouds. I'm like, it is. I sent some pictures to my near twin recently, and he was blown away. He's like, oh my God. He's like, I see so many things in your clouds there. I'm like, yeah, I tend to open up my curtains and I'll lay in my bed for hours and just ask God questions and see what clouds roll by. Just like today, it was really hilarious. My son and I opened up the window. We're looking outside, and most of the clouds are moving slowly like clouds do. And then all of a sudden, this dark gray, charcoal gray cloud comes rolling by from the right to the left really, really fast. And it was a giant arrow. It looked just like an arrow, like a cartoon arrow. And we started laughing so hard. We're like, what the hell? What is that arrow cloud pointing at? It was almost like, go this way. It was hilarious, like a one-way sign. It was so funny. We're like, what is that? Why is that? What does that mean, right? But my son's like, oh my God, that one's a wolf. Oh my God, there's another wolf. He'd been thinking about getting a wolf. Suddenly there's all these wolves in the sky. And I saw a Viking ship roll by just as fast as the arrow one today. It looked like a little bit like a Viking ship, and it quickly changed into something else. But he was like blown away. He's like, oh my God, my imagination is soaring. I'm able to visualize things in a brighter color even than I did before. He was, I feel like social media and electronics, it was just kind of ruining me, making me anxious and nervous and afraid and just feeling so lonely. And he's like, now I feel like amazing. And so he's been on an electronic diet for a couple days. He hasn't had interaction except for occasionally, like using my phone to watch something, Comedy Central we watched together, little bits and clips of This Is Not Happening, which usually it's about drugs or being in a dangerous neighborhood. I mean, Roy Wood Jr. was describing one of his childhood memories, and the way he described his neighborhood was exactly like a neighborhood in California that my kids and I lived in for 6 months. I mean, he was talking about the crack den next door and the meth lab down the street. I'm like, why does he keep saying he's in the back east? I know this. He lived on our street in Richmond. We were on 3rd Street, like right next to the famous Mission there. It was like, oh my God, we're so glad to be away from that neighborhood. It was very, very dangerous. But absolutely crazy. But yeah, we were just we were talking about this a lot though, and he was like, I think we need to have a lot more activity outside, and I agree. I think we're going to go. We're at least going to go look at this lady's house and see if it would be suitable for us, even though we'd have to share a bathroom. That might be okay. There's no bathtub, but it's right down the street from where I could go swimming in pools. That might be better. Okay, I won't be naked. There won't be bubbles and champagne. Okay, there's never champagne. Sometimes there's beer in the shower, but there's never champagne. There ought to be, but there's not. But I do have candles. I always like candles, but my son likes having candles on in the bathroom too, and we're, when he's like showering, it's like in where we live, it's like not cold enough to have a heater, but it's sometimes so cold that you put on a candle or two and you're fine. So for us, it's like our heaters, having a candle. So we like having that, but so we've been thinking about it. We've been tossing around in our minds, like maybe he's been really wanting a dog and maybe a cat. And then we're talking about livestock. Like, let's get a llama. And I'm like, oh my God. Llamas are so sweet. They do spit in your face, so you do need to wear sunglasses at times around them, especially when they're in a bad mood. Wear a face mask. But I don't know. I hope you guys are able to go find a really good book. Go find something that inspires you. Go to a lending library or the library, or I say lending library, like, like in a hostel. If you're in a place where there are hostels, you just go to hostelworld.com. Just go spend overnight somewhere and see if they have a lending library before you go, and bring a book you have that you've already read, you don't want to read again, and search it for money. All my books had $20 bills as bookmarkers. Because I did that for myself so that when I'd reward myself for going back to a book that I had like abandoned halfway through. So I was just like, seriously, it's probably $100 or more in my books that were in my storage unit. I mean, whoever got that storage unit, I'm sure it was like freaking Christmas Day every time they opened up a drawer or a book or something. It's like, makes me sick. That still makes me sick. But anyway, I do love reading a really good book. I'm still on The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, which is really good, but it's like I got like 60 pages into it and I never got back to it. And I'm still reading Dr. Bennett's book, it's like right here, yeah. Karma Transformed, Fast Track Your Evolution. Those are the two books I'm reading now. I do have a book. There's these authors that their book is really good. It's about Atlantis. It's a very good book, and they want me to read the book all the way through, and I'm like, oh my God, it's like it takes me years to get through books, and it's like I have to put it on my phone, and I have to like zoom in and scroll back and forth. It's just like so ridiculous for me. So I'll probably do it on my computer, but it's like ridiculous. It's like I don't want to sit in front of a screen all day, but the book is excellent. But I got the free version, so of course it's PDF, because they want me to interview them, and they've got kids the same age as my kids. They're really cool. In fact, their son's the same age to the day. He was born on the same birthday as mine, so I thought that was pretty neat. But eventually I'll interview them. Eventually I'll get to it. There's a lot of things I need to get to. I don't know about you guys, but for like weeks, I've been absolutely exhausted during the day. I sleep all night, or whatever, 8 hours, sometimes 12 hours, and I wake up and I'm absolutely exhausted still. I've been having these dreams, these massive dreams, just intense, powerful. Since October 19th, my dreams have been absolutely, so it's been about, 6 weeks now. My dreams have been absolutely vivid. They feel real. I feel like I'm working. I wake up and I'm exhausted. I feel like I didn't get any rest at all. And I had a bunch of venting dreams. I woke up this morning. I didn't remember anything. And then my son and I were talking for a couple hours, and I started having an allergy attack. So I took a 4-hour allergy pill. And when I went to sleep the second time, just taking an afternoon nap, I had this dream that was so incredible. My son says to me in my dream, it was just he and I just normally in our apartment that, when I woke up, it's never anywhere I've ever been ever. I was somewhere else completely. But in the dream, of course, oh, sure, this is our apartment. Sure, we've lived here forever. It always happens. You wake up, you're like, where's that? But in my dream, I was just normal day, is just in the living room kind of hanging out. And in my living room was beautiful. It had like blonde wood floors, and the walls are kind of white. I hadn't figured out what color to paint them yet, but I was going to try to get them painted or do something with it. But I had a really comfortable couch. I had a TV. I had, it was like basic, simple furniture. And the kitchen was pretty nice. Again, all white walls. And we were still like, we just moved in there. We're like, what are we going to do? How are we going to do this, And, but my son's like, you know what? I'm going to make some food. And I'm like, all right, awesome. So I went in and I'm like, what'd you make? He's like, well, I made, tuna steaks. I found we had albacore tuna in the freezer, so I made, I steamed some tuna, and I'm making tuna sandwiches, but like tuna steak sandwiches with veggies. And I'm like, oh, okay, that sounds good, except I don't think I really want bread. And he's like, that's okay. You could just look, I left the tuna steak here for you on the plate. I'm like, sure, all right. This is like a very simple dream, except my apartment is like fabulous. It's got this massive sliding glass door to the outside, lots of green plants outside. It was really cool, actually, and had like a little nook where I was going to put my desk and chair and set up like a little office. And I mean, it was just like kind of neat. It was like neat to be in a place so spacious and open and clean, light and bright. I think it might have been a house. I wasn't really sure. When I woke up, I'm like, was that an apartment or a house? It looked like a ground floor apartment or a house. It was very nice compared to where I am now. I mean, where I am now is okay, but there's some slumlordy, not our landlord, but just the building. It just isn't all that. Like, every day it shifts and shuttles. That's not a word. It shifts and settles, and like this, I don't even know what, this powder comes out of the walls underneath the baseboard every day. So you could sweep, you could have it professionally cleaned, and the very next day, all along the walls, it looks like, the silverfish have been doing cocaine again. I don't know. It's like this thin white powder all around the edges of the walls. It's really crazy. I don't know. We might be having little tiny earthquakes. It's like shaking the walls. I don't know. There's all kinds of cracks in the walls. So we kind of really want to move. If we have a 10.0, we're sunk, So anyway, so we're so I was like, really cool to have this awesome, fabulous apartment, but it was like the most boring first half of a dream ever. And then I went to pick up the fish that was on the plate, and as I was holding it, and I had my the plate, but I didn't feel like carrying the plate. I was being lazy, which I never do. Virgo, I always have to have a plate underneath all my food, even if I'm walking around with it or sitting on the couch or whatever. So I went into the living room with my son, and he had this big plate of like an oval shaped plate of round, or I mean, oh my God, I'm not explaining this right. It was oval-shaped cake in this like round, ovally, eggy shaped thing that we don't have, right? But I thought that's really interesting shape, right? And it's white cake with white frosting and like pastel sprinkles, and it looked really amazing, and it smelled like vanilla. It smelled really good. I'm like, that's really cool. I wish I had cake. He's like, really? I'm like, yeah, I do. He's like, well, why don't you eat the cake you have? And I knew that between my thumb and my forefinger, I still had the albacore steak. I'm like, well, I'm not done eating my albacore yet, though. And then I turned, and in my hand was a piece of cake without the frosting. And I'm like, what? How is this suddenly not tuna? How is this a cake? And he says, do you like it? And I took a bite of it. I'm like, this is really, really good. I wish it had frosting on it, but I really like it. And he goes, well, I just learned how to do this. Why don't you take a bite of it now? And I turn and I look at my hand. Now the cake is not just plain cake. It has frosting and sprinkles, just like what he had in this oval-shaped thing. And he was halfway done eating it. And he's like, I want you to watch this. And I was looking at it, and it just like grew back. It was like, but in like 2 seconds, just boom. Full thing of cake again. And then he looked into my eyes. He goes, this is a thing I've learned how to do. I'm a master manifester of food now. So just let me know whenever you need anything, Mom. These are the kinds of dreams. I'm dreaming my son is a spiritual master now. These are the kinds of dreams that the fifth dimension is showing me. So when my son is into spiritual master in my dreams, I'm learning how to fly. I'm going literally to like witch school on the other side. Like I'm with Jude. He's like, yeah, we were learning how to fly. Do you remember that? I'm like, yeah, I just had the dream. And he's like, I know, so did I. We were there together. Remember after flying lessons, how we're like hanging out in the lounge, we're talking to other people, and we were kind of cuddling a little bit? I'm like, yeah, I totally remember that. I remember it like it was really real and really happened. Well, so does he. So it must be really real and really happening. My son came in right when I woke up from that dream. He's all, hey, Mom, can I have some money? I go, is it for white cake with white frosting? He's like, no, but that sounds really good. I'm like, with all the pastel sprinkles? He's like, yeah, that sounds really good. I'm like, I got a dream to tell you. And I told him, he's like, wow, that's really trippy. He's like, you must think highly of me to have dreams of me that I'm a spiritual master. I'm like, I think you are. I think that might be your life purpose. Like, I think it might be like, this is the time. This is the year. And I think it's not just my son. I think it's a lot of us. This is the time of our lives in which we are literally on the path to becoming spiritual masters. I really think that's what's happening. That's what the fifth dimension is about. Like literally, we're learning how to become spiritual masters. So my son said he felt calm. He felt amazing. Ever since he gave up the electronics, he was getting too deep into it. So he's like, yeah, forget it. I don't need anything. And his energy in the morning led me to that dream in the afternoon. And I'm like, wow, that was like so rapid. And then I read in this book, Karma Transformed, about how to have the mind of Christ, who also did spiritual mastery things. He was a spiritual master, right? So in this book, he was saying, or God was telling Miss Dr. Bennett, who was my psychologist, and he's also a former rocket scientist, literally. And because I was going to him for brainwave optimization treatment, and so was my son, which was excellent, and we would still be going, except for the fact that they moved. They moved to Mexico. If you ever find yourself in Lake Chapala, Mexico, that's where they are right now, anyway. But I was reading this book. I was reading this book, and he's saying in order to have the mind of Christ, not only do you have to connect with God and your spiritual team at all times, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Not just for 5 minutes here and there when you need to ask a question, but 100% of the time. And you put your dual attention, so you have your attention on them and being connected with them, and then on the day-to-day things you're doing. Makes you a little bit scatterbrained sometimes, but a lot of the ideas you'll have aren't coming from you. It comes directly from divine. So it makes it easier. And I've been living like this for years, and then I read in his book, I'm like, oh my God, I've been doing that forever. So it's like pretty cool that your book talks about, well, all the things I've been doing are all the things that they were describing, but there's one thing today that came up when I was reading this that I didn't know before, and this is what it is. He said, God told Dr. Bennett that if you want the mind of Christ, first of all, you got to do the dual attention thing. Second of all, you do have to meditate, because all the stuff that we send you during the dual attention thing, it's not always absorbed and 100% integrated. But when you meditate, you give your mind a chance to calm down, relax, and all the integration of all the material and information we gave you occurs. The third step then is to simply put your consciousness back in time since before you were born, when you were in the place between lives, the life between lives, basically heaven or the other side. Put yourself back there when you knew everything still. When you had all the information, instead of here where you are, where you've forgotten everything. And that's how you get the mind of Christ. You just got to put your consciousness back. I'm 51 years old, got to put it back 52 years where I was in heaven, where I knew everything already. It's just a matter of remembering who you are and what skills you already know. Just a matter of getting it all back, baby. Anyway, I thought that was really interesting. I wanted to share all these thoughts with you today. All right. DisclosureNews.it, their morning report was at 10:30 today. They said, as we can see from today's chart, the lack of yesterday's update was not due to missing data, but apparently a combination of problems with the site and the detection apparatus. The new graph shows mainly calm, apart from a very strong isolated peak at power 58 at 6 a.m. UTC time. Then the 1700 UTC report says, as we can see from today's chart, the lack of yesterday's update was not due to the lack of data, but apparently a combination of problems with the site and the detection apparatus. The new graph shows mainly calm apart from a very strong isolated peak at power 58 at 6 a.m. So, dude, I just read the same thing twice because their exact thing was twice. Oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. I didn't notice that before I read it twice. Were you guys going, wait a minute, do we not just hear that? Do we just hop our timeline? Okay, whatever. I should totally edit that out, but I'm going to leave it in because it's kind of funny. Blooper. Oh my God, the blooper reel for the show would be half the show sometimes. All right. So anyway, that was a Schumann Resonance. That was it, just 58. I should have said 58, but I mean, sometimes it's good to hear what they're going through. But can you believe that the exact same thing? They just cut and pasted it. Weirdos. Those potheads in Italy, I'm just kidding. I don't know if they're potheads or not, but it's kind of funny. All right. All right, here we go. According to heartmouth.org, and thank God their website is working today, it looks like there's a lot of activity around the 24th and 25th, and then tapering down on the 26th of November. And here we are on the 29th, and this is what we have. In California, they start off at midnight as 78 Hertz frequency on the Schumann Resonance scale. And by 5 a.m., they were at 71. So they only went down by 7. And in Honolulu, that's not Honolulu, sorry. In Saudi Arabia, in the town of Hofuf, they have been at 0 all the way across. They've been there for weeks. In Lithuania, they start off at 97 Hertz frequency at midnight. And by 5 a.m., they were at 95 Hertz frequency. In Alberta, Canada, they start off at 103 Hertz frequency, 103, and they went down to 97 by 5 a.m. In Northland, New Zealand, they started off at 45 Hertz frequency, and they went down to 32. And in Honolulu, South Africa, they started off at 128. So remember back when they were up in the 600s and they literally peaked out at like 700. So they are now down, for them it's very low, 128 Hertz frequency at midnight, and they went down farther to 120 Hertz frequency by 5 a.m. All right, in A Course in Miracles.org, we are on the review already, the 5th review, and we're at lesson 171. And so there's one phrase throughout the whole thing they want me to repeat 3 times, or us, I guess, when we're taking the lessons. If you want to take lessons on your own, acim.org, because I only read a few of the ideas. I don't read all of them. But go ahead and download an app, and you could read it for free, or you could go get it in a used bookstore for about $60. All 3 books, highly recommend. Or you just go to acim.org, the Foundation for Inner Peace's website, and they're the publishers of this amazing and remarkable, and yes, miraculous book that does bring the miracles. So I'm going to read this because I like the high vibes of it. Lesson 171 is, so it starts off with the idea that it's going throughout. So we're going to say that 3 times. God is but love, and therefore, so am I. Now, the first thought is taken from lesson 151. All things are echoes of the voice for God. All things are echoes of the voice for God. And then it says again, God is but love, and therefore, so am I. And then the second thought is taken from lesson 152. And this is it. The power of decision is my own. The power of decision is my own. And again, the main thought running throughout everything, God is but love, and therefore, so am I. Again, that's A Course in Miracles, acim.org. And there you have it. All right, guys, when I come back, we're going to go over, for the Freaky Friday episode, the Mandela effect. We've got some new ones. There's one we're going to mention that we've already mentioned before, but it's just so strange. Like, I'm going to mention it again because I know I've talked about it before. But right after this message, we're going to come back with the all-new Mandela effects for Freaky Friday. Right after this. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's high time you did. It is the absolute easiest way to make a podcast. First of all, it's absolutely free. Second of all, they have creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. You guys have known that I've been doing this for 8 months using the Anchor.fm app right on my cell phone, and I have done it everywhere, right? I have recorded this in my living room, my bedroom, little cafes in Quito, Ecuador, all over Cuenca. It's so absolutely easy to make your podcast, and editing is just a snap. Anchor also will distribute your podcast for you, and it took me about 2.5 months to become syndicated, and now I'm available on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more, and so can you. You can make money from your podcast also, and there's no minimum requirement. You get paid from your very first listener. It is everything that you need to make a podcast all in one place. So please, if you are interested in making a podcast of your very own, do not hesitate to start with Anchor. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. Metaphysical Soul Speak is run on sponsors and listener support. This means listeners like you. If you are so inclined to support my efforts and my little podcast, please visit me at anchor.fm/metaphysical and pledge an amount of your choosing today. Thank you. All right, guys, I am here with all new Mandela effects that people have started to notice. I get these from the channel called All Time, and it's on YouTube, of course. Another website I'd like to recommend, the YouTube channel All Time. Obviously, I don't need to recommend YouTube because everybody goes to YouTube, but he's got some new ones, and I watched several of his videos and compiled this master list of recent ones in the past couple months. Several, like 10 of these have been noticed in the past 6 weeks or so. And what is the Mandela effect? If you're new to this concept, this idea, and my show, now I've done 3 of these, maybe 2 or 3 already I've done, but the Mandela effect is when Nelson Mandela died in, I want to say, the early 90s, it was a really sad couple weeks following for me, because I always felt like he was one of my heroes, right? And so it was like one of the saddest things. It was like the story was that he was running for the president, and either he got it or he didn't. I can't remember exactly, but he ended up in jail. They said he was corrupt, and it was a big thing. It was really bad. And then he died in prison, and then his wife ended up being the president. And then then she got put in jail for corruption, which may or may not have been trumped up charges. That's how I remember it. But a few years ago, Nelson Mandela died. And it's like, no, wait, what? Hold up? What? He didn't die just now, like a couple years ago. He died in the 90s. I remember it. I was really sad about it then. Why would I be sad about something that never freaking happened? But this is the first thing that people noticed. And apparently when he died, he had never gone to jail, and he'd been president this whole time. And working, to help the people in his country. And he was from the continent of Africa. I want to say he's from South Africa. I don't know if that was the country he's from or not, but I know he's in the continent South Africa. But his deeds, his words, his courage, his bravery, who he was as a human being, reverberated throughout the entire planet. Everybody loves him, right? Everybody loves him. So what the hell that he just died a few years ago? Like, wait a minute. No. I remember it differently. And most people, well, I won't say most, half the people remember it where, no, he never died. He was an inspiration and then he died just a few years ago. And half the people remember it the other way. I think that, A, it's weird. B, there's a lot of theories on how does this happen? The first thing is just weird. How is it that according to the man who does the all-time videos, he says, how is it possible that we have a mass misremembering? You know, half the population remembers something one way and half remembers another. So the theories abound as to why this is. Is it time travelers? Is time travel real? Are time travelers from the future going back in the past, creating a bunch of paradoxes and screwing with us? Is it that our timelines have been collapsing as we're moving into the fifth dimension? I mean, he hasn't talked about this one because he's not really maybe aware of that, or he doesn't want to talk about it because it sounds weird and freaky. But, you know, is it that? Is it, you know, is it the timelines collapsing, and as they collapse, we move on over and we start to share a timeline of people that were already there? What happens to our counterparts? What happens to theirs? Now, that's a little freaky. Is only half the people moving over? What happens to their counterparts on the old timeline? It's kind of freaky. Is it a mass misremembering? Is it just... what is it? We don't really know, but it's something that's freaky, and it's perfect for us today for Freaky Friday. So the number one that I have on the list is Super Mario Brothers, the Nintendo game. A very original. The first one that ever came out was in 1985. I wasn't too terribly big in video games. I played Pong for hours with my brother. I mean, it was literally the simplest, stupidest game, and yet so freaking addictive and fun. You know, we did that, and then eventually we got the version of Pac-Man, and I think it was Atari we had. But my sister was really big into video games, and she grew up being in bowling leagues her whole life as a very little girl. Like when she was 6 years old, her mom got her involved in bowling, and she spent half her childhood in a bowling alley. And she was on a league with her best friend Roman, who she's married to now. My sister is 4 years younger than me, so what's that? You know, and I mean, for a while they parted ways after high school, and she, you know, as an adult, moved to another state, and everything is super, super mysterious. Nobody knows what happened, but she came back pregnant, and that's how she got her first son. And then she and Roman ran into each other, and the rest is history now. And then they had a child together, and they've been together forever, right? But they ended up, you know, both of them, they were in the bowling leagues their whole childhood. And my sister played a lot of video games. So when I would go to visit, because, you know, I lived in Minnesota, and I'd fly out to California to see everybody. And so my sister would be like, "I want you to see this video game. I want to play video games with me." And my mom would be like, "All right, here's, you know, $10. Go hog wild," you know, and they'd watch us play video games. Sometimes my mom and stepdad would play video games too. But so I remember, you know, all these different video games. And I remember when, I think it was my cousins, or it was my sister's cousins, they came over and they had their Nintendo, and they brought it over for Christmas, and we were all hanging out and playing. And I remember this Super Mario Brothers. And, you know, in 1985, I graduated in 1986. So I was like in, you know, like 11th grade. And I was just looking at this going, this is not really my cup of tea. But they made me play. Come on, please, Elena, play. All right, so I'll play. And I remember being super annoyed by the green pipes that seemed to be platforms, but sometimes like a man-eating plant would come out, like a piranha plant would come out and grab me and eat me and take me back down into the sewer pipe, which is absolutely freaky and terrifying, you know. And also the reason why I lost over and over and over and over again. And I had friends later on when I was an adult. I went to their house, and they had all the old Mario games, they had Zelda, they had all the players and all the games and all the everything. And again, I remember these piranha plants from the original 1985 Super Mario Brothers. And this is the kind of game that would scroll from left to right as you're going around. And, you had all the typical things. You got to eat the red mushrooms with the white spots. And there were white mushrooms with red spots. There was all kinds of stuff, right? But do you remember? I mean, you're just like the turtles. You got to kick them or step on them, remember? You got to get them out of the way. Like all the little things, obstacles in the way, right? Do you remember that when you stepped up on the green platforms, the pipes coming out of the ground, do you remember the piranha plant? Yes or no? Because half the people remember that, yeah, there's absolutely piranha plants. That's why no one could ever get past the first level. But now, apparently it doesn't exist. It never existed. It was never real. I remember it clearly. I remember it eating me. I'm like, no. In Rick Moranis' movie about the man-eating plant, I think it was about the same year. It's like 85 or 86, right? So it was like kind of a theme, the piranha plants or the man-eating plants, right? So the second one is one that really freaks me out. What river is the longest river in the United States? I'm going to give you two choices. I want you to think about for a minute. Is it the Mississippi River or is it the Missouri River? When you grew up and you learned this in geography or maybe history, I don't know, social studies, I don't know what they call it. It depends on your age, what they called the class, but I remember it one way. But the largest river in the United States is what? Is it the Mississippi or the Missouri? Did you say it was the Mississippi River? Because it's actually the Missouri River is the longest river in the United States. It's actually over 100 miles longer than the Mississippi River. The Missouri River. I've never even freaking heard of the Missouri River. I know, though, that when I was in high school, we took a long trip. We had to leave at like 5 o'clock in the morning to get there by like noon or 1 in the afternoon. And we went on this like 9-mile hike in and 9-mile hike out. It was absolutely grueling. But I remember this extremely long day where we went to the headwaters of the Mississippi River on the north shore of Lake Superior in Minnesota. It was one of the most beautiful, amazing, coolest things I've ever done in my life. Also, it was absolutely exhausting. And I remember touching the water with my hands, putting my hands in the sand there and touching the water and thinking, I'm touching water that leads to the largest river in the United States. And that's what we were taught that day. And we were proud because we were living in Minnesota. We're Minnesotans. We're living in the state where the headwaters of the largest river in the country is. It was one of the many claims to fame in Minnesota. We're all proud of that. Well, guess what? It's the Missouri River. It's longer by 100 miles. Is it bad teaching? Did half of us learn wrong? What happened there? The third Mandela effect is Raggedy Ann. Remember Raggedy Ann and Raggedy Andy? Those very famous dolls. They've got bright red stringy hair and their face is sewn on because it's a kid-safe, baby-safe, child-friendly toy. And they're wearing red, white, and blue, and they're adorable and cute as can be. And they've all been pretty much they've been made the same over the years. I had a Raggedy Ann and a Raggedy Andy doll when I was a little girl. My husband had a Raggedy Andy doll when he was a little boy. It was popular among boys and girls. And it was accompanied by a book. And the author was Johnny Gruelle, and he first wrote about Raggedy Ann and Raggedy Andy in 1915 when he created the doll to go along with the book. And it's been an icon in the United States for over 100 years. 104 years, going on 105 years, Raggedy Ann and Raggedy Andy. You know, their eyes are sewn on so the babies can't chew them off, you know, they're very safe. Well, this doll has never changed, according to the company. But what do you remember on Raggedy Ann's face? Do you remember round cheek circles that were red or pink? Do you remember just a blush without an outline? Or do you remember freckles? So I'll give you a couple seconds. Think about that. How was Raggedy Ann and Raggedy Andy's face on their cheeks? All right, so this one's another weird one. My mom wanted me to feel good about myself as a redhead. So she gave me Raggedy Ann and Raggedy Andy, and she said, this little boy and this little girl, these dolls I think were made after a real boy and a real girl, and they're famous. There's a book, and she got me the book, and she says, I want you to love these dolls because they're just like you. They have red hair and freckles, just like you. And I do remember little freckles on their cheeks. I remember like little brown freckles on their cheeks. But apparently, they've never had freckles ever. So, and the guy that does the all-time video, he remembers that the freckles were little black triangles sewn on. I remember that they were like brown, almost like drawn on. Yeah, I don't remember them being sewn. I think they were just like printed on somehow, painted on. And what it really is that they have cheek blush, no circles around the cheeks. I also have a weird memory of there being cheek circles, like just circles on their cheeks, and they were pink. But I also have a memory of them being red. So I think I'm combining all my memories from all the different timelines I've been hopping. But right now, as it is, they only have a little bit of blush, no outline, but on both cheeks they've got blush, and that's it. Both Raggedy Ann and Raggedy Andy. All right, number 4. Have you ever seen The Nightmare Before Christmas? Most of us have. It's about Jack Skellington being jealous that even though all the children all over love Halloween and they love collecting candy, by far and away, they love Santa Claus more and they love Christmas more. It's a more sacred, fun, amazing time of year. And frankly, Jack Skellington is jealous. And so he wants to be known as the generous one. And he goes around trying to out Santa Claus, basically, right? And he has the help of his trusty dog companion called Zero. And this question is about Zero's nose that glows like Rudolph's does. What do you remember? What color was Zero's nose? Did it light up blue? Did it light up yellow? Did it light up red? Or did it light up orange? I'll give you a minute. Zero's nose, as he's delivering toys to children with Jack Skellington and The Nightmare Before Christmas, his nose was orange because it was a jack-o'-lantern, which makes sense, goes along with the movie. I remember it being red like Rudolph. Because it was like a black and white theme and then black, white, and red. I don't know. I just remember it that way. But hey, I saw a picture of it on this guy's website. He showed all these pictures of it, and it's like, yeah, makes more sense that it's orange. Okay, then number 5 is about Star Wars. There's a lot of Mandela effects surrounding this movie, Star Wars. There's a very famous quote in the movie, "May the Force be with you." I've said it to my friends quite often. I've said it to my kids. I've said it to my oldest kid in the past few months even. Instead of saying goodbye, we'll say, well, may the Force be with you. I've had a lot of people say it to me, and I've said it to other people. May the Force be with you. It does exist in the movie. I'm not going to tell you it doesn't. It's true. It's been marketed to death on posters and t-shirts and you name it. But in the first original Star Wars movie, the first one that came out, who said that? Was it Obi-Wan Kenobi who said, may the Force be with you? Or was it Han Solo? Who said that first? All right, so Obi-Wan Kenobi mentioned the Force several times in this movie. He said, Luke, the Force will be with you. He also said, the Force will be with you always. But the person who said, may the Force be with you, was indeed Han Solo. Not how I remember it all. I remember Obi-Wan Kenobi. I mentioned this before, that I saw this movie, and this is really freaky, as I saw it at night. I saw it 2 times in a row, in the afternoon and then the evening. And the movie theater in which I saw it, and there's only one room with one screen showing it. I think it was 1976. Is that when it came out? Or 77? Anyway, when it came out, I think it was like 1976. It was my husband, who later became my husband. He saw it in the exact same room at the exact same time on the exact same day, because I saw it on opening day on a Saturday. He saw it opening day on a Saturday, and it was like the sun was starting to go down when he was waiting in line, and it was dark when he got out of the theater. We saw that movie together, and we never met. We met when I was 28, 20 years later. He and I danced around each other for 20 years and never met until I was 28. So I remember seeing the movie, and I saw it twice in a row, and I remember it being, may the Force be with you. This is Obi-Wan Kenobi's blessing, may the Force be with you. But apparently he never said it. It was Han Solo. Okay, number 6. The iconic classic Wizard of Oz movie made in 1939. We all remember the Wicked Witch. I think she was the Wicked Witch of the West. And we all remember her monkeys, her henchmen she sent out after Dorothy. Her flying monkeys, that scary scene that usually the movie was shown in California on Easter. And you'd be sitting around eating your Easter candy and watching this movie, and then you go to bed with a super high sugar rush followed by a sugar crash, just in time to have horrible, horrible nightmares, usually about the flying monkeys. It's a common thing that happened in people in my generation anyway. And we all remember what she said to those monkeys. Or do we? What did she say? What did the Wicked Witch say to her flying monkeys when she sent them out after Dorothy and the Scarecrow and the Tin Man and Toto? And your little dog, too. Did she say, fly, my pretties, fly? Or did she say, now fly, fly? What did she say? I'm assuming a lot of you are going to say that she said, "Fly, my pretties, fly. Fly, my pretties, fly." It's been on t-shirts. It's been on posters. It's been on memes. It's been a joke, kind of, for a long time. But actually what she said was, "Now fly, fly." Are you kidding me? That's not how I remember it. I remember it being "Fly, my pretties, fly." All right, the next one really freaks me out because of the way it was presented on All Time, as well as just in general. Okay. Risky Business with Tom Cruise. He was so young and so cute back then. Oh my God, everyone had a heartthrob crush on him. Especially the scene. That scene. And his parents are leaving. They leave. He's like, yes! He's going to throw a party to beat all parties, and he like slides into the scene next to the staircase. Remember, he's wearing a long-sleeved business shirt and his tidy whities and his socks and no pants. And he's playing air guitar. And he's dancing and singing, and it's like one of the most iconic moments in American cinema, at least from the 1980s, 1983. Now, the Mandela effect about this one is, what color was his shirt? Was it white? Was it a pink shirt with white stripes? Or was it a blue and white striped shirt? Think about it for a minute. Think about that scene. He slides in. What color was his shirt? It's this exact scene has been recreated in other movies. It's been referred to in TV shows again and again and again and again. And all the recreations are exactly like the first. All right, so I'm going to tell you the answer. How I remember it. I remember it being a blue and white pinstripe shirt. How it truly is a pink with white stripes shirt. But how everyone remembers it is a white shirt. What? I don't remember that at all. I remember it being a blue and white shirt, tidy whities, and white socks. Now the scene is gray socks and a pink shirt with white stripes. Really freaky. Now, was he wearing sunglasses in this scene or not? Black sunglasses like Ray-Bans? Everyone remembers it, and that's everyone's Halloween costume. When you dress up like Tom Cruise in 1983 Risky Business, you always have the black sunglasses and the white shirt, the tidy whities, and the white socks, right? Well, apparently he did not even have sunglasses on in that scene. How the hell? There's no way. There's no way in hell he didn't have sunglasses, but guess what? Go look at the movie now. He does not have sunglasses, and his shirt is pink. What the hell is happening? All right, our next Freaky Friday Mandela effect is not new, but it's just one worth mentioning again because this is one of the weirdest ones ever. I'll admit it, I in the early 90s, I had a massive crush on Sinbad. Yeah, you know which one this one is. The Shazam movie. And I remember thinking, what a ripoff, Shazam, because of the Shazam and Almighty Isis Hour. That's what I called it anyway. I remember he would call upon the powers from his father Zeus, and he would say Shazam, and he had a red cape and a red everything. He had like a lightning bolt on his chest, and he would say Shazam, and he'd hold his hand up, and the lightning would come down through his arm and give him power. Another, hereditary witch, if you ask me. And then half of the show would be that, and then half the show, it was like an hour long, and half the show would be Isis. And she was wearing like a Grecian tunic, and she'd be like, Isis, Isis, Isis. Well, I remember that when the movie Shazam starring Sinbad came out, there were posters all over LA. It was highly advertised, and I remember going to, and I'd seen him on stage, I'd seen him on like the Johnny Carson show, I saw him on all kinds of shows. I love Sinbad. I had a massive crush on him when I was a little girl. And I remember going to the, I just thought he was funny. I mean, God, if a guy can make me laugh, I mean, seriously, if a man can make me laugh, that's like one of my weak points. It's like one of those things where if a guy makes me laugh, it's like, oh, that's it. I have to date you, right? Guys that have no sense of humor, absolutely have no attraction for. But if a guy can laugh, tell jokes, or be funny, or give like funny looks, or just act funny, I don't know. It's just something about that. I love to laugh. So that's my thing. I love that. But so I loved Sinbad. And I remember sitting outside the bathroom. I did mention this before. I was at Magic Mountain with my little sister Tina and my mom and my stepdad. And we're waiting for my mom. Like, she was holding our stuff, all the stuff we'd won at the carnival part of Magic Mountain. And my sister and I went into the bathroom. And then when we came out with my stepdad, we would watch the stuff with him. And then my mom would go to the bathroom. And then we'd wait for him to go to the bathroom. Like, we just took turns watching the stuff outside. I mean, it's back in the day when you could leave kids outside alone with holding a bunch of stuff, and no one's going to rob them or steal their stuff, right? I mean, today I wouldn't trust that, but my parents were pretty careful. And I remember sitting there at the fountain, and I said to my sister, look at that Shazam poster with Sinbad. I want to see that movie. I love Sinbad so much. And she's like, you do? Ew. Oh, I don't, so we had a conversation about it. She's like, I don't know. I mean, he's funny, but I do like him because he's funny, but I don't know. You really like him? Like, yeah, he's so cute. She's like, I don't know. I don't think he's my type. Of course, Roman was her type, and Roman has been her type since the day they met, and they're still together. But the movie doesn't exist and never did. It's kind of a pretty generic 90s movie, family-friendly movie where it's goofy. There's a genie. They find the lamp, they rub the lamp, the genie comes out. I never saw the movie, by the way, but I do remember the movie posters. And apparently, so the genie comes out, and then all this mishaps happen, and then they get back in the lamp and everything's fine. Bada boom, bada bang. Simple, wrapped it up nice and neat in a big bow. But then in the mid-90s, in 1996, the movie Kazam came out, starring Shaquille O'Neal as a genie, which sounds extremely weird to me. Does he act? I don't know. I don't think I ever saw. I think there's maybe one basketball-related movie I saw him in, but he's a basketball player. It's very weird. I don't remember him in any movies, but he's probably in a few kids' movies. Like, I think there's one with, no, that was with Michael Jordan, the one with Bugs Bunny. So I don't remember Shaquille O'Neal acting, but apparently he was in a movie called Kazam where he was a genie in the same exact storyline as Shazam, and it was like a big fat ripoff. So when people remember this, half the people remember Shazam, but Sinbad himself says, I never acted in that movie. I've never heard of that movie. What the hell's happening? And Shaquille O'Neal definitely did do Kazam, but how would we make up the word Shazam? Was it from the Shazam and Isis hour? Weird. I think it's maybe it's like Sid and Marty Krofft or the producers of that, who I met, by the way. I met them when I was a little kid. But They were like my heroes. You're 8. Those are your heroes. The people who make the children's movies or TV shows, I mean. So how is it so many people are remembering that it was Sinbad and Shazam, and Sinbad says he never ever acted in that? I mean, that one still freaks me out, because how are we having a mass misremembering? It's not like we all have Alzheimer's, right? Crazy stuff. All right, so number 9 is Forrest Gump. Tom Hanks in the famous scene where he's sitting on a park bench and he's speaking with a woman, and he says, what does he say? I mean, there's been memes made of this. There's been posters made of this. I think T-shirts, maybe more, even coffee mugs. He says, life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. Or does he say, life was like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. Go back and watch the movie now, and it's gonna say, life was like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. My mama always said, right? I remember it as, life is a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. What you're gonna get. And I mean, even the guy on All Time, he was freaking out over this. So he's like, no. I know it's like one word, and a Mandela effect it's usually a lot more than just one word, but it changes the meaning completely. Life was meaning it's already happened, but then the second half is you never know what you're going to get. You're gonna get means in the future. So why would he say half in the past, half in the future? Makes no sense. But, and what he says, that's what makes the Mandela effect so weird and so interesting. It's absolutely bizarre to me. Why would that? Makes no sense. But it was always, life is a box of chocolates. Present moment, present tense. My mama always said, life is. That's how I remember it. How do you guys remember it? Weird, right? All right. So number 10 is E.T., 1982 movie, directed by Steven Spielberg, one of my favorite all-time movies ever. When E.T. Stays home alone and he learns how to speak by watching TV. And he's hiding in the closet, and the kids open up the closet, and he's trying to give them the information. Why is he there? What does he want? You know, what is his purpose for the whole movie? There's been T-shirts made, posters, coffee cups. It was on the box with the E.T. in it, which I had. And what did he say? What did he tell the kids? First thing. Did he say, E.T. phone home? Or did he say, E.T. home phone? When he said those 3 words, what order were they in? E.T. phone home or E.T. home phone? That one's a weird one. Now, I remember him saying E.T. phone home, but then when I thought about it, I do remember him saying E.T. home phone, and the kids saying phone home, and he says phone home, E.T. phone home, and he started, going around the room saying E.T. phone home. But I remember him maybe saying it home phone first, but I remember both ways. Again, maybe I've collapsed 2 of me from 2 timelines into one timeline. Freaky, right? Now, this is a really bizarre one. In the very first Toy Story movie, I don't remember this one because it was the first time I dropped acid. I went to see this movie. I thought it was a toy, and I thought I was like gonna suffocate in the toy chest if they put me away, and I was scared for like pretty much the whole movie. So I'm not a big authority on this one, but I do know what makes the most sense with this one. So Toy Woody, when you pull his string, and some people tease him and pull his string, right? And he'll say, reach for the sky, or you're my favorite deputy. And there's another weird one that he says when they pull his string, and he says, which one does he say? Does he say, there's a snake in my boot? Or does he say, there's a snake in my boots? Now, the guy who owns the channel all time, he says, you know, guys, I had a Woody doll, and I pulled its string, and it said, there's a snake in my boot. But he went back and he watched the movie. He even put a clip on All Time. So if you want to go YouTube and look at his channel about this one, he says, he literally played it, and it says, Woody says, there's a snake in my boots, with an S at the end of boots. That makes absolutely no sense. How could there be one snake in two boots? In Toy Story 2, 3, 4, and The Toy You Buy, the word is boot, singular. In the first movie, it's boots with an S. Doesn't make any sense, but that's how it is. If you go back and watch it, that's what it says. So, number 12 in the Mandela effect is new Mandela effects for Freaky Friday. It's just about food. Well, it's actually about a candy. The jewelry candy, the giant lollipop that you wear on your hand like a giant diamond ring, came in like 6 flavors. My kids used to eat these. I never wanted to, but I even knew adults that ate these. They loved these because it was a convenient way to hold it like a diamond ring. Plus, you can imagine, ooh, it's a big fat jewel on my finger. I'm a queen, you know, or a king, you know, depending. But Frank Richards developed this for the Tops Candy Company. This lollipop. What do you call it? Was it called a ring pop or ring pops with an S at the end? Because I don't know about you guys, but I remember being a ring pops. They were ring pops. Because there's 6 of them on the box. Ring pops. On all the displays. But apparently that's not true. Because they're ring pop. Singular. You only buy one ring, I suppose. One ring pop. Number 13. I never saw this movie, but I do remember this mask. V is for Vendetta, or V for Vendetta. I can't remember the name of the movie even. Sorry about that. I didn't even see it. But remember there was like a white and black mask, right? It's the same mask, incidentally, they use on all of the Anonymous videos. Remember when Anonymous was so popular? Even here in Cuenca, there was a graffiti artist who'd made a stencil of the Anonymous face, and they started spray painting that all over town. I'm sure I could still find it. I even took pictures of it, and I think I might have put it on my Facebook, actually, so you could probably still see it if you go to my personal Facebook with the black square instead of my picture for Elena Fox Starks. But anyway, and V is for Vendetta. It was a white and black mask, or was it a white and black mask with pink lips and pink cheeks? All right, guys, I don't know how you can feel about this, but it has pink lips and pink cheeks. It's a white mask with black outlined face, pink lips and pink cheeks. Freaky, right? I mean, I watched all the Anonymous videos when they first started coming out, and then they just got too freaky for me, and I just was like, yeah, forget it. Remember for a while everyone's going, I am anonymous, you know? So, yeah, those anonymous masks apparently have pink lips and pink cheeks. I don't remember that, but that's what was in that movie. Number 14 on the list of the Mandela effects that are new Remember the Smoky Mountains one we talked about before, where it was Smoky with the E and then it was Smoky without the E for Smoky Mountains? It's a different Smoky, as they said on All Time. Smokey the Bear. Remember Smokey the Bear? He was one of my heroes because only you can prevent forest fires. What did Smokey the Bear wear? What do you remember him wearing? I remember him being a bear, wearing blue jeans and a brown belt and red suspenders and no shirt. And then later in, I think the 90s, I remember him wearing a park ranger shirt that was kind of left open to show his berry chest. And then he wore a hat. That's what I remember him wearing. What do you think? Did he wear suspenders? Yes or no? And if he wore suspenders, what were the color of the suspenders? Like I just said, I remember him wearing red suspenders. Always had red suspenders. You could still see it, but when you look into it deeper, no. He never wore suspenders at all. Or a shirt. I remember him wearing a shirt later because it was like more appropriate somehow in the 90s. But he still wears blue jeans and a brown belt and a hat. But, and there's you could see it, you could find it online where he still has a red, but it's like bleed over because when you find out, like I guess this guy found out from the people who put out Smokey the Bear, not put out, but like he's not on fire. But, you know, all the people who put out the Smokey the Bear posters now, and Smokey the Bear still goes around talking to schools and stuff. He never wears red suspenders. Ever. Weird, right? All right. And now, last but not least, the 15th one is about a Zeppelin. Not Led Zeppelin, but the Hindenburg, the German airship in Lakehurst, New Jersey on May 6, 1937. Was a day that all airship travel ended because of this massive disaster. When the Hindenburg exploded, it was the biggest, by the way, the largest aircraft ever to fly. And it exploded, and in 30 seconds, the whole thing went up in flames. And it crashed in a fiery doom. Yeah, we're ending on a really happy one, aren't we? What do you guys remember when this airship, the Hindenburg, crashed? It was like basically a giant blimp, but it was an airship, a Zeppelin. So what do you guys remember about when it crashed? How many people died? Because if you look at the footage, it's pretty damn obvious that every single person on board died, right? But apparently, I mean, because it was on fire in the air. It was about to land and it was in the air. So anyway, and there's footage, you could go watch it. But apparently not everybody died. I remember it being the largest disaster. And I kind of remember like 100 people dying because some of the ground crew, and I kind of remember 106 people dying. I remember my cousin telling me that 106 people died, and he kept saying it over and over again. And I was like, okay, I get it. You know, just, I don't want to dwell on it, right? You know, I was like, whatever. When I was like 12, I was kind of bitchy, I guess. I wasn't really, but in my mind, I was like, God, I already heard you, dude. I don't want you to keep going over this. Why do boys have to focus on the negative crap in life, you know? I'm just kidding. I think that's kind of how I thought when I was 12, though, just to be honest. But how many people died on that day? It seems like everybody, but this isn't the truth anymore. The history has been rewritten as we've hopped timelines. And I mean, this is the reason why there's no more travel by massive Zeppelins. The airships are gone. This is over, right? There were 97 passengers and crew. And out of those, how many died? Well, apparently, 35 only died. 13 passengers died and 22 crewmen died. And one person on the ground trying to rescue them, he died in the fire. And 62 people survived it. I don't know, guys. I don't remember that. Only 35 people died? I don't remember that. I think it was, at least on the timeline I came from, everybody, like 106. Like all the people on board plus people on the ground. It was like 100 or 106. It was like a lot of people. It was like, wow. That's why it was the largest disaster, right? But guess what? It's now not the largest disaster that happened in the 30s. It was the number one deadliest disaster that I remember from that time period. I mean, I don't remember it because I was born in the late 60s. But apparently now, the Hindenburg was the third deadliest air disaster. The first one being in 1930, and the next one being in 1933, and this one, of course, being in 1937. This was the third deadliest disaster now. Weird, right? That's why we don't travel by Zeppelin. I mean, just bizarre, right? I don't even know what to think about this. It's just so weird. But those are the latest Mandela effects coming down the pike from all time. He does a ton of research on them constantly, and it compiles them. The Shazam one we've all knew about before, so it's not technically a new one, but I just want to mention again, it's just so freaky, right? So many people. I mean, this has been an ongoing debate for years, and people remember. Anyway, I don't know what you remember, but, you know, if you remember it the way I do, we're probably from the same timeline. If you remember it differently, and I've noticed a lot of younger people tend to remember it the way it truly is now. But I don't know. I mean, it's kind of weird. Anyway, why do you think we have the Mandela effect? If you guys want to write me at metaphysicalsoulspeak@gmail.com and let me know if you have a theory other than what I've come up with tonight, or what other people have come up with. I want to hear it. Like, why is there the Mandela effect? You know, some of these things I'm not very connected to, but some of them are absolutely like 100% I'm connected to. I hiked 18 miles to touch the headwaters of the Mississippi River, the mighty Mississippi, the river that Mark Twain got his name on when he was working as a riverboat captain, or at least the apprentice of one. I mean, for me, he was my favorite author. He was so hilarious, and I remember touching this and feeling like a connection to him, even though he was traveling along the mighty Mississippi in, I think, Louisiana, you know, the other end of it. And I remember thinking that just made me that much more connected to him in a weird way. And I hiked 18 miles to touch the longest freaking river, the beginning of the longest freaking river in the United States. So, I mean, for me, that one's like personal. It's like, what do you mean the Missouri River? Missouri River? I didn't even ever hear of the Missouri River. Ever. I've never heard. I mean, I think I've heard of it, you know, when they crossed it in Christmas Vacation, Old Man River, the Missouri River, I think they called it. But I didn't know it was that long. It was longer than the Mississippi River. Is it bad education? Is it bad memories? Why do we remember all these things so differently? Anyway, let me know. Tomorrow I'll be back with all unique and original programming, just like always. Tomorrow's Saturday, which means we'll be back to reading of Clairvoyance and Occult Powers by Swami Panchadasi, which is like lessons. If you haven't been tuning into those because I'm reading a book, or maybe you heard a couple and you just were like, whatever. Every single week is a different lesson. And every single week it's something that will help you to develop your psychic powers, basically. It's literally metaphysical lessons from 102 years ago. but absolutely 100% still relevant today. I mean, if you care to be a superhuman with superhuman powers, I suppose. But tomorrow I will be back. I'll be reading that book by Swami Panchadasi. And that's it, guys. That's it for now. I still do need to hear from you with your Christmas miracle stories, your Kwanzaa, or your Diwali or Hanukkah stories. Please send them in to me. I want to do a very special Christmas episode, and we've got, less than a month now, so we have about 3 weeks before I start compiling the stories. So if you have anything, especially if it pertains to Santa Claus, even if you're not Christian and you have a Santa Claus miracle story, any kind of holiday miracles, maybe something showed up at your doorstep and it was mysterious, or maybe someone was sick and got better. Something, anything to do with a Christmas miracle or any of the holidays around this time of year. Kwanzaa, Diwali, Hanukkah, anything. Even if you're not any religion and something magical or miraculous happened at this time, if you've ever seen Santa Claus, if you've ever seen him appear as an apparition or anything, I want you guys to rack your brains, ask your family, ask your friends. I want to hear the stories, because that's going to be our Christmas episode. All right, that's it. I'm signing off, guys. I love each and every one of you, and I'm so grateful to have you on this metaphysical journey with me and ascending at this time with me. We are all in this together. We are soul family, soul tribe. I'm so happy about that. That's how you find me on Twitter. Just look up hashtag soul family, hashtag soul tribe. I put out a bunch of ones. You can find me that way if you want to add me. Instagram and Twitter, I'm at mermaidgirl888. All right, that's it, guys. I love you. I love you so much. I will be back tomorrow with more, as always. So I'm signing off with peace and joy and the high vibes of the holy fifth dimension. Until next time, guys, peace. Do you ever wish you could look into the next chapter in your book of life and see what's coming next? What does the universe have in store for you? I can help you with that. I will give you a Celtic cross reading, which is 10 cards, or you can ask me 3 questions, and I use 3 cards per question. So that's 9 cards, or I can channel your higher guidance, or maybe God directly for you. Maybe you want to talk to your dear departed Aunt Edna, because maybe you have a few questions and she was the smartest person you knew. If your deceased relatives are available or your ascended masters, I can channel them for you personally. Let me have 1 hour to show you the future in your next chapter of your book of life. Readings are $75, and it takes me an hour to an hour and a half to complete. And for this price, you will also be hooked up to the healing grid around the planet for free, which means yours truly, me, I will be giving you Reiki 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for the rest of your life. All you have to do is let me know. metaphysicalsoulspeak@gmail.com, and we will explore your future together.